Greetings. This is Jerry Jin. I'm happy to be here speaking to you today with regard to this talk. I think you'll be in for some very interesting ideas and concepts which we have developed. I'll be talking about the new creation energies of 369 and their detection. It's something new, something different. It's a new subtle energy. And we'll talk about its implications as to what our true nature really is. And you'll be able to measure your vibrational energies with some of the techniques I'll be teaching you. And in addition to learning about 369, you'll be learning some new subtle energies related to materials called GANs and Ormus and Brown's gas. With that, let me jump into a little bit about my own background. I'm chairman and CEO of the Foundation for Mind Being Research, FMBR, and we give lectures throughout the year on various topics, all types of topics from healing to quantum physics, remote viewing, etc. And you just tune into fmbr.org. And you'll see a lot of lectures that we have given. I'm also author of the new book, The Seeker and the Teacher of Light. And the link to that, to my website on the book is jerryjin.com. And much of what I'll be talking about today will relate to things that are in the book, which I think you'll find very interesting. My own background, I am a scientist, is one of the things I've done throughout my life, biochemist from UC Berkeley. And I've been in corporate America, and I've been an entrepreneur. In corporate America, I was in biochemical, syntax, pharmaceuticals, and entrepreneurial activities. I've started a whole series of companies for the past 45 years, ranging from drug delivery in the ophthalmics area, to diagnostics, to laboratory medicine, to the dental field. So there's a lot of, some of the companies have gone public, Chemtrack in the diagnostic side, and some have been sold to larger companies such as Allergan in the ophthalmic areas, where we solved some of the problems such as macular edema. But my main passion nowadays is in the mind-being arena, in all things with regard to consciousness and the nature of what reality is. I've had a long association now with my friend Joaquin Whippage. He and I work together on lots of projects, and he's an intuitive and a master at the nature of who we really are. And he's a dowser, and many of you in this audience probably know him. My main topic is what is 369? Tesla is well known for his quote, "If only you knew the magnificence of 369, then you would have the key to the universe." What did he mean by that? To understand that comment, you need a bit of background. You need an understanding of what the nature of the torus is. You need to understand the nature of creation of matter as expressed by Walter Russell. And you need some understanding of the elements of biogeometry and radiesthesia. So I'll give you brief introductions to those three subject matters before delving into what 369 really is. The torus, the donut shape, flow of energies. The energies flow into the center and out through the other side. And it's a form that sustains creation from the micro to the macro, from subatomic particles through galactic clusters and beyond. It's in virtually everything from an atom to a seed to a human, a planet, solar system, galaxy, in the universe. It has vortex energies, light going through the center. When Charles Ledbetter and Annie Besant were asked, what's the nature of an atom? And this is way before the current state of knowledge. This is in the late 1800s. They're clairvoyants, Theosophical Society. And through their peering into their visions, they saw a torus, actually two toruses, a male and a female version of the torus. So that was really the first inkling of what the torus is, the true nature of matter. And since then, others have looked at this exhaustively. If you read the materials from Nassim Haramein or Arthur Young, Nassim is a quantum physicist, Elizabeth is a mathematician, and Arthur Young, his theory of processes into the nature of how things are formed. And they believe that the torus is fundamental. I believe that also. So that's what the torus is. Now let's go into what Walter Russell saw with regard to the torus. He didn't talk about the torus, but he talked about the energies and the vortex flows of energies. And in 1921, he had an out-of-body experience in which he was moved into the mind of God, or the mind of the universe of light. And he said, behold, and he was speaking with God, behold, thou the unity of all things in the light of me, and the seeming separateness of all things in the two lights of my divided thinking. See thou that I, the undivided, unchanging one, and within all divided things, centering them, and I am without all changing things, controlling them. What did he mean? I like this slide. It summarizes the gist of his view of everything. On the far left side is the white light, which is the light of the mind of God. It's everywhere. It's omniscient. And what we are is that we're the thought creations that see only the limited vision of the visible spectrum. And since that's all we see. We don't see the white light. We don't see the white light that is everything. And we see what is the electromagnetic spectrum of the visible light. So everything is dark, everything is separate, except for the bits and pieces of creation of matter, suns and stars and the galaxies, and we see ourselves as separate entities, but we don't see ourselves as part of the whole, which is the white light. The other thing is everything is waves. Drop a stone in water, the lower right-hand side, the waves form, and the interactions of waves occur. And waves are the nature of creation and what we are. So what is the vortex motion of light, and what is Russell talking about? He views creation as the vortex, the centripetal flow of light towards a center. And actually there's two lights. There's a male and a female, a red and a blue. So there's polarity. And it goes clockwise, centripetally, to the center. And it's the equilibrium of that centripetal motion that creates matter. Matter decays, motion still occurs. And As it decays, there's a centrifugal motion outward. And that is the decay of matter. And that's a counterclockwise rotation, centrifugal motion versus centripetal motion. So entropy versus creation. And that's the nature of the galaxies. And you see the vortexes, and you see the spraying out of the matter that occurs from the central creation. And that's in all the spiral galaxies, you see that. Oops. Okay, let's go a little into biogeometry briefly so that we have a fundamental understanding of that field. It's formed by Ibrahim Karim. It's the science of establishing harmony between biological fields and their environment through the use of design language of color, form, motion, and sound. But what you're doing with biogeometry is you're creating an environment where there is harmony, and you use various tools to do that, from angles to motions to colors, etc. To understand biogeometry, you have to understand the concepts of resonance, because that's how you communicate with the energies and communicate with things. You have a monochord, a string, you pluck it, it vibrates, and all the octaves will also vibrate. So that string length of the monochord is key. You strike a tuning fork, and all octaves of all tuning forks that have related octaves will also vibrate. So these vibrations are carried out through what's called resonance. And in biogeometry, you can use shapes and angles and colors to achieve resonance. As with a note, the length of the string is what the note is. With the pendulum, you have a fixed point, just as you do with the string, except now the string length is equivalent to the string length of the monochord. That reflects what that note is. And in biogeometry and in radius, the field called radiesthesia, you define subtle energies based upon a scheme that the French developed, in which you use colors to identify various energies. So if you have a sphere and the sun is shining on the sphere, where the sun shines on is in resonance with the color green. And I'll show you that with in a future example of how you get into resonance with colors. But here, if you look around the sphere, on the right side of the sphere, you'll see violet. On the left side, you see red. And on the opposite side of the sphere, you see negative green. It's just called negative green because it's opposite the green color. Now, if you draw a circle and orient the circle with a north side to it, you'll find that the north side is also in resonance with green, and the east side with violet, and the west side with red, and the opposite south side with the negative green. And it's very simple to do this type of experiment. You have a red color, you have a neutral pendulum. Neutral pendulum just means it's not a mineral like quartz or things of that nature. And you gradually release the pendulum so the string length elongates, and you get a to and fro motion. And at the point that the pendulum goes in a circle, if you're above red, then the color red, then you have the wavelength of the color red. with that string length. And that's how you determine the wavelength of any of the colors that you saw previously with that sphere or that circle. Why do I tell you this? Because in biogeometry, there's a harmonizing energy. It's BioGeometry 3, or it's commonly called BG3. And BG3 is in harmony when the pendulum rotates clockwise whenever there is the quality of harmony is present. And when the quality of harmony is present, there are three energies that are associated with that harmony or that one energy quality. It is one energy quality, but there are three components that resonate with it. And you'll find horizontal negative green. You'll find a higher harmonic of ultraviolet, which means it's not ultraviolet itself, but harmonic of that. And you'll have a higher harmonic of gold, which is not gold, but a harmonic of gold. And it's therefore harmonic of the color yellow. But these three things are present when there is BG3 present. And you find this by using a pendulum. And the pendulums that Ibrahim developed are the BG16 and the I-cup pendulums, which are shown here. And whenever you meet the qualities of harmony, or when harmony is present, or you develop this situation so harmony comes into a situation, then these pendulums will go clockwise. Very valuable and important tool. And Ibrahim Karim was able to demonstrate the utility of this energy in a number of different ways. For example, in Switzerland, there are two towns, Hamburg and Hirschberg, which are experiencing a lot of problems with electromagnetic frequencies. They put the cell tower at the top of a church. It was beaming it into the community, and people were getting sick, and animals were getting sick. And by using what's called the Hamburg emitter, as a tool that he pointed towards the cell tower and the emitting energies, and he was able to harmonize those energies so they were no longer a problem. And in so doing, eliminate the hypersensitivities for DMF for those cities. He did the same thing with hepatitis, which is a disease of the liver, deadly disease. And they were doing a study, a national study in Egypt with regard to hepatitis. They're looking at all the key drugs, the Western drugs and the Eastern drugs, and decided to also allow Ibrahim to use what are called biosignatures, pendants, with diagrams on them that were in resonance with the liver, and would also bring in BG3 to the liver. And there are a lot of tools that biogeometry uses to bring in harmony, and for lots of different reasons. And a few of these are listed here, from the cubes to space harmonizers, zero balancing wheels, etc. But biogeometry is a real science with real success stories behind it and real ways of measuring it. Now we can get into the subject of 369 and what it is and how it was discovered. Bob Whitehouse was giving a lecture at FMBR, and he was talking about the torus. And he showed a cross-section of the torus, which is that circle, the two smaller circles in it. And when I saw that, I knew about 369 because I'd heard Tesla's quote. And I've been searching for the answer to that for some time. And as soon as I saw that structure, I said, well, there's the 6, and there's a 9, and there's a 3. Maybe 369 has to do with the torus structure. And I knew torus is involved in creation. So does it involve the creation and the torus? Well, BG3 is a way to measure that energy. By the way, you see the 6 there in the red, and the 9 there in the blue, and the 3 in the green there as part of the infinity sign that's there. So let's look for BG3 energies, see if we can find BG3 in the structure. Well, obviously the torus cross-section did not have BG3, but I knew about creation, and I knew about the centripetal motion that's clockwise. So I drew the 6 with the clockwise motion, and the 9 with the clockwise motion. And lo and behold, now the structure has BG3, is a harmonizing structure, gives off harmony. And by merely putting arrows in without even tracing the lines to show flow of direction of energy, then there is BG3. And you can photocopy that, and there's BG3. You photocopy the circles on the left, and there's no BG3. So the direction of arrows or tracing it in these directions shows it. What if you drew the circles counterclockwise? What would show up? I did that, and that's on the right. And now you have counterclockwise rotation of the pendulum, of the BG16 or I-cup pendulum. So it's in a certain sense, a negative or counterclockwise BG3. It's no longer the harmonious BG3. It's part of the decay of matter BG3. Now, if you draw the numbers, the Arabic numbers, and you put in clockwise motion in drawing the 6 and the 9, you're going to get BG3. If you do it the opposite direction, you're going to get the negative BG3. And negative BG3 may not be the right terminology, but it's just a rotation of the BG3 pendulum that goes counterclockwise. If you mix up the directions of rotation for the 6 and the 9, you do not get BG3. Now, the way the universe looks at numbers is they look at it in terms of units. So if you draw units, and unit could be lines, as shown here, then you get BG3. So if you draw 3, 6, and 9 lines, BG3 is present. You cannot draw these in reverse order or start in the middle, then you're not going to get the BG3. It's a very defined thing with regard to these numbers. It's photocopyable also. You can photocopy a reverse direction of it, and it's not going to have BG3. Okay, what else is related to the torus or possibly related to the torus? Well, the yin-yang structure is a circle, 2 turns to a clockwise and a counterclockwise turn. And it's known to have to be used to harmonize things. There's polarity, it's harmonized polarity basically, because you're doing harmonizing counterclockwise and clockwise. And when you draw out these structures and follow the flows of curves around, you soon find out that the yin-yang is nothing more than the torus, but half the torus in each direction. And you can see that on the right too. There's a little structure of a torus, and you can see that is the case. So yin-yang is involved in harmony. And it does have BG3 energies, and later on we'll see that it has 369 energies. What's another symbol of creation? In the beginning, there was a word. So there's an Om chants. And so it has to do with creation and the cosmic principles. And you'll find the literature that may be involved in the Sanskrit symbol of Om. It's only the Sanskrit symbol of Om has this energy. The English word Om does not have any BG3 energies. So Om, the Sanskrit version, is built from 369 as shown in, on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side, you see the Sanskrit version of it. So there is BG3 present. Another structure that has BG3 is Marco Rodin's vortex math symbol, sometimes called the symbol of enlightenment. It's a series of numbers from 1 to 9. And if you do the math of doubling the numbers, you get a structure that's formed. But if you double 3, 6, 9, they just bounce back and forth with each other. You do not get a shape that is formed. And you continue doubling the numbers ad infinitum, you'll get the same structure. The structure is, if you go from 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, 1 and 6 is 7, 7 and 7 is 14, 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 5 is 10, so the radical root of that is 1, so it bounces around ad infinitum. If you do the further math of the numbers and put it on a grid, the numbers actually form a torus, and Randy Powell showed that. So what we see is if you draw the structure and show the arrows of the flow of 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and 1, that structure has BG3 energies. And if you draw those numbers in terms of units, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., those numbers have BG3. So you can consider 3, 6, 9 falls outside of that, and 9 totally falls outside of it, because anything you do with 9 comes right back to 9. You multiply 9 by any number, and the digital root of it, it's 9. And 3, 6, 9, or 3 and 6 just bounce back and forth with each other. Very interesting math. Bagua, which is the Asian version of creating reality or fundamentals of reality, they have broken lines and long lines in hexagram shape, or the 64 shape of the I Ching. And 64 or the Bagua may refer to the hex. These are hexagrams and may refer to the tetrahedrons that form the isotropic vector or the isotropic vector matrix, which is also part of creation that Nassim Harriman and Buckminster Fuller talk about. So they're all related, basically. They all have BG3 energies. The Reiki symbols have BG3, but it's only the power symbol that will show us the 369 energies in addition to that. And I have defined that. Okay. BG3 and 369 are different. And there you can detect the energy of 369 alone. How do you do that? Through resonance. You can have a pendulum, and if you inscribe 369 onto the pendulum with lines or the clockwise motions of 369, you have a pendulum that will pick up 369. And the pendulum will go clockwise when this happens. So BG3 is involved in the centering, harmonizing qualities in matter, electromagnetic universe, etc. All have these properties. And the 369 may be associated with the creation and the torus structure. And the energies are distinct from the BG3 energies. Here's a pendulum with 369s drawn on it to pick up 369 energies. How do we know it's different? Lots of different ways. If you have 369 Or you have the L emitter, the BioGeometry L emitter. They both will exhibit 369 and BG3 energies. However, if you combine them together and thinking that it'll augment the energies, it won't. Turns out it nullifies the energies or interferes with the energies, and you do not detect, if you should have the L's and the 369s there, you will not detect 369, you will not detect BG3. So there's an interference. However, the power of the mind is very interesting, and who we are is very interesting. Just with the words harmonize and the thought intention of harmonizing, the L's and the L90s and the 369 together, they're harmonized, they no longer interfere, they no longer nullify each other. You don't want to do that, just take a yin-yang symbol that's been activated. You've drawn that clockwise, counterclockwise rotation in the center, and that activates it. Put that in there along with the 369 and the L, and everything is harmonized. So intention, thought will do it, and yin-yang will do it. These structures also have another interesting property. These structures here all have BG3 and 369 energies. However, if you look at the very center, you pay attention to the very center of each of the structures, then you find that the structures do not have BG3 in the center, but the centers all have 369 energies. Another interesting observation. 369 and the lines of 369 were 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 5, 1, and Ohm all have 369 as well as BG3 energies. You can use the 369 energies just as you would with any BG3 article to harmonize things, to bring in harmony into the environment, to bring in harmony in an emitter sheet that you send energy to people, etc. But don't mix things 369 with BG3. They'll nullify unless you bring in the yin-yang symbol or use intention to normalize, harmonize it. Another interesting thing you do with these energies, Ohm has 369 and BG3 energies. If you create an array of 369 of these together, you'll generate quite a bit of BG3 energy. 6400 is on the BG3 scale. There's a BG3 ruler that we use in biogeometry. So it gives off quite a bit of energy. You can do the same, you now have that array that you've created, the 369 array, that arrangement, and you create a super array of that is also in a 369 pattern. And now we'll have BG3 and 369 energies that are quite high. It's greater than 10,000, and the last I measured it, it was around 17,000, I believe. BG3 rulers only go up to 3,200, so you have large sheets of paper that will create a ruler to measure this. And you can use this to activate water or structure water. Typically, tap water runs around 200, so we have a control water and water that's been, you put the array, the water on top of the array, and good spring water will be around 1200 thereabouts. So in 2.5 hours, you'll get good spring water out of tap water in terms of its structuring. If you let it go in a certain 96 hours, I was seeing levels of 7100 with regard to effect on water or the extreme structuring of water. I've worked a lot with Joachim Wippich. He's a dowser that you know, and he's a healer. And he heals by inviting in harmony and then by increasing a person's vibrational energy level to the I am level. That's a very important thing. Now I'll talk a little bit more about the IM level in a few minutes. But he uses the 369 pendulums to check on harmony, and he used that to bring harmony levels up higher by working with people. He uses the symbols of 369 for various purposes, and he uses 369 to increase the vibrational levels by having the pendulum spin and working on people's levels. I find that his use of 369 in affirmations is phenomenal, in the sense that if you start repeating some of his affirmations to bring in harmony or to bring in a person's level to the I am level, and you do that by repeating affirmations 3 times, 6 times, and 9 times, they're short affirmations, you invariably bring the vibrational level of a person up to 100%. And the pendulums are really turning when that occurs. Let me describe a little bit about the structure of or Ormus and Gans. Ormus and Gans are a fundamental part of creation. They have 369 energies. I'll define what they are in just a few minutes. They have the 369 energies, but they do not have the BG3 energies. And researchers have been working in this field without any tools to detect what they make. They know by route that probably is something that gives off an energy, but they have no way of detecting it. Now, with the 369 pendulum, they have a way of detecting it. And not only that, they have a way of detecting the fields. The fields have not only 369, but will have the energies of BG3. And so what the heck is 3 GANs? And I'll briefly describe it. You have the solid state, liquid state, and gas state. But there's some energy levels of matter that goes above that. So you have the nano levels and you have the GANs levels, when the nano breaks down into separate parts. And GANs refers to the terminology gas in the nano state. And I'll define this with a picture in a second. And then if you break this in further, you have plasma, high energy states, and all things are now separate entities. They're like little pieces of magnets held on a flat surface. Now I'll show that also. So imagine in this slide that you have a copper wire, which is the blue dots on the bottom. It could be anything else, but let's just use copper. And if you heat it with a flame, you'll loosen the surface layer, and that becomes this blackish material, copper. And this is copper GANs, or the nano coating of copper on top of the element of copper. And there's spaces between the copper, but they're still held together by electromagnetic attraction. If you loosen that with alkali, as an example, you have the separated out material. We call that GANs, or gas in the nano state. They're separate, actually separate little toruses in essence of the materials. And it's just like if you have a disk magnet, there's repulsion and attraction. So attraction would be the gravitational force and repulsion would be the magnetic force. And you have that with, when you break materials down into the GAN state, you have the particles or the toruses separating out and repositioning themselves due to their gravitational and magnetic properties. They will form fields. And here you see, and you call it maggrav fields, magnetic gravitational fields. There's flows in and out, just like the torus. So they are, in a sense, miniature torus. Ormus is one form of GANs. You make that with sea salt and just bring it to pH 11. You get this fluffy cloud, and you call this Ormus. And you can put that on a cat who's lost its tail, and the tail will grow back. Put it onto fruits, growing citrus fruit, the citrus tree, and you get oranges the size of grapefruits, etc. For our purpose, the interesting thing is if you can put these things into vials and arrange the vials into shapes, you can form fields. By themselves, the vials will only have 369 energies. If you form it into a square, and that's all I'll talk about here, we have other shapes here. The shapes will form fields, and within the fields will be BG3 and 369 energies. For example, you put 4 GANs vials corner of a house, the whole house will now build up BG3 and 369 energies. And if you start with 200 as the level of BG3 in a house, in a number of weeks, you'll have BG3 levels of around 3,200. The interesting thing is you can move these fields, and this sort of boggles your mind, basically. You can play with it, and I'll just show you this. You have 4 vials of Ormus. The field is within those vials. That's about 3,200 in terms of BG3. And you say, move the energy to this to the left. And so it's a little blue square there. And let's put a vial of water in there. You have another vial where you have not moved it. Now the BG3 in the green square is no longer there, but it's in that blue square, and it's less BG3. It's around 15% of it. It's about 500 BG3 units. But what happens to the water in those fields? Well, to control water, nothing really happens to it. Much happens to it. But with regard to the water in the where you moved it to, its rate of change will continue, and in a number of hours, it'll reach 700, 800, and over days, it'll reach around 3,200. Precautions here are that you don't want to just do this experiment indiscriminately. One person put the GANs and buried it outside. A exterminator sprayed the grounds outside, and that created the energies of negative green inside the house. The energy permeated the house, contaminated it, and in France, some of the key persons who, or person who discovered a lot of the properties of radiesthesia and these energies was mummified because he built up too much negative green, vertical negative green. So it can be deadly. Precaution. You can bless water, put your hands around a glass of water for 1 minute, and the BG3 will go from 200 to 1,200, which is good for quality spring water. All this is testable. So you are much more than this. You've showed that you can now harmonize energies, you can move energies, you can bless water and change it. And the reason for my showing all this to you is that I'm not going to go through the slide, but you are not just your body. And in the book, you'll find that through understanding a whole bunch of phenomena, from Kriya Yoga to quantum physics to looking at people with just water in the brain, hydrophilus, to people who have created instruments to talk with plants, to the pair experiments, Princeton Engineering Anomaly Research Lab, that you can change chance by just intention. That the global initiative study. Energies are around a person, you douse, and so people look at you and say, oh, how can you possibly do that? People remote view, people heal from a distance. Death is not really real in the sense of how we know it. Yes, you're out of this domain, but you're in another energy vibrational level. Near-death experience persons know that. Out-of-body experiencers know that. People who channel talk to people on the other side all the time. Electronic voice communications occur. The work of Dan Drazen, Calling Earth, hypnosis and regression. People know what's happening after death. Our essence is really the I am. That's who we really are. And I don't have time to go through all the nature of it, but it's a level of energy that you want to be at. It's that level when you're at the quietness and meditation that is that stillness. And in terms of I am, we're all the thought creation of God, and that's a part of God. And through that divine connection, we're all connected and part of the one. So we're not our bodies. Our essence is I am. Essence of everything really is I am. And God is the source of everything, and we're a part of that. So we really are everything also. And I Am the I Am is a wonderful poem. I get a chance to read that to you. If you ask me to do that, I will do that. So we're all not matter, but we're all of God. We're the thought creation of God, and everything is God. Everything has consciousness, whether it be the table, the minerals, the plants, everything is of God. But we are an aware, we have awareness. And so we can know that we are the I am. And that gives us a lot of abilities that if we just recognize that. So, and everyone is, and everything is made in the same way. So we are creators, we create with our thoughts, we create with our words. Everyone has free will, and so we have to understand that, and therefore we have to create with a sense of balance and responsibilities. And creating that balance is really the key with how we work with each other. But we have that responsibilities. My book is there, and the link is there. So that will give you a lot of more information than I could possibly give you in the 40 minutes that I'm allotted. You'll get a lot of information on healing and understanding creation and understanding the I am and getting to the I am vibrational level. I do want to talk a little bit about getting into that level. You know, much of this work comes from my work with Joachim Whipitch, who really understands this arena. He's really an enlightened person. What he teaches will enable a person to dowse accurately all the time. Wonderful understanding of I am and healing. He gives you affirmations to bring you to the I am level. I am aware that all components of my divine being are active, present, and functioning at 100%, is an example. And he teaches people to rethink I am. I am rethinking I am, or I am rethinking and pause, rethink. And that pause allows you to remember who you really are. You are the I am. So, and you repeat these phrases 3, 6, and 9 times to get you there. And you repeat it and state your birth name, and then I am. And that will get you that state. The way I go and do it is I say, I am everything I am. I can repeat that 3 times. And I'm at that level of quietness immediately because I realize who I am at that point. Another way to state it is I am 100% God's creation throughout my evolutionary thought creation. I am in a full name, I am. And you test for it. You can use a neutral pendulum to test for it. You can lower the pendulum over the back of your hand and get the pendulum moving. And then when it goes clockwise, that's your personal wavelength. And with that personal wavelength, you allow that to rotate and you repeat the affirmations. And as you repeat the affirmations, the pendulum will just start rotating rapidly. And you're at the I am level. Or you could just ask, am I at 100% or am I at 10%, 20%, 30%? Or there's other ways of using a scale to do that. And with that, I'll stop. You can ask me as many questions as the organization will allow you to ask me before my time is up. I can talk about things like using energetics to inhibit the growth of SARS virus and how to do that. I have ways to do that. I have uses the personal wavelength so that you know what's good for you, what's bad for you. Learn more about harmony, learn more about I am, learn about you're not your body. So with that, I shall conclude this talk. And let me get out of here. And I'll stop sharing. And I shall stop my recording.